Hello everyone and welcome to the CSS Selector series for the testers. In this particular tutorial, we will learn to write a CSS selector using element tag name. So let's begin. So what is element selector? So element selectors basically targets the elements by their HTML tag name. So basically what it does is that they target elements by their HTML tag name. Now there is a problem. For example, if you want to target an input field, so there might be a multiple input field over there. So let me go to the browser and let me show you. So in this particular page, we have multiple input field. Again, this is last name is input field, first name is input field, email address is input field. So if I try to locate the element here using a tag name, and here the tag is input, so there might be more than one element. So in order to make it unique, so whenever we will be using the element selector, in order to make it unique, we need to combine it with the other selectors. Okay. So here we need to combine with other selectors to make it unique. Now again, go back here and let me show you what I mean. So basically here, this is the input field. So as soon as I type input, you see that one of 36. So on this particular form or the web page, we have 36 input fields or the elements having this input tag. But as an automation tester, our goal is to write a selector which can uniquely identify this particular element, right? So in order to make it unique, just like I said, we need to combine it with the other selectors. We have already learned about the ID, class. We also learned about the attribute selector. So we can utilize our previous concept and make it unique. Now this is the input field and I want a unique CSS selector. So what I will do is that we know that when we are working with the ID, so basically we need to use a hash with the ID. And if there is a class, then we can use dot. So let's go here and you see that this particular input field has a ID first name. So copy this one and after writing the tag name, we are combining it with other selector, and other selector is basically using the ID over here. So hash ID, and here now we have uniquely identified this particular field, and here we used basically the element thing, element selector, and we combined it with the other selector. So we used ID and the element selector over here. Now let's try to locate the other fields like this female one. So inspect this one, and here again this is the type of input and ID is equals to female. So let me copy the ID from here and paste it over here, and you see that we have successfully constructed a CSS selector which uniquely identified this particular element, which is a radio option for the female, right? Now let's find some other different fields over here, like for example this particular checkbox. So inspect this one. Now again this is input field, and here we have ID as well. So simply if I go here and copy this one and paste it over here, so we have successfully created a CSS selector for this input field where we have a ID Python, right? So basically what we are doing in this particular tutorial is that we are using the element selector, which is basically a tag name, and followed by another CSS selector to make it unique in nature, because as automation tester we need to identify the element uniquely, right? So scroll down, and it's not about identify the field. Sometimes you need to identify maybe a form or text area or something, right? So you have form and different elements, and you need to identify the form. So basically, if I go here and type form, so you see that this whole form is basically highlighted over here. And here we have, this is the main form, right? So let me move this here and here. So you see that this is the main form, and inside that we have a different fields. So what I'll do is that let's make it unique and combine it with some attribute. Okay. So what we can do is that we can say hash the main form. So now it's 1 of 1, right? So it's not about only finding the fields or the elements. You can also uniquely first identify the whole form. Your web page might have a multiple forms. Identify the forms, then inside that you can find that element, right? So in this case, that would be really helpful. So even in a similar way, you can identify the table. So when I type table, so you see that this is a table, right? And you want to identify this employee table, because as soon as I type table over here, it says 1 of 9, right? Now this is a product table. Okay. So it says 1 of 9, right? So for example, if we want to locate this employee table, right? So simply copy this one and hash, because this is the ID over the ID. Now we have successfully identified or located this table. So the concept is really simple. Here we are using element selector, which is a tag name, and followed by another selector to make it unique. Most of the cases we have ID available and always recommended to use the ID. So we are combining a element selector with the ID selector and making it unique. So here you can again go with any kind of the element over here. For example, this button over here, and here you see that it's a button tag. So button, and on this particular page we have 17. And if we want to locate this choose button, right? So here we have a class, okay, and we have other options available. But let's go and scroll down and look into this submit one. So submit has a ID as well. So hash with ID, we have uniquely created a selector for this submit button. You can also use the class if the class is unique, but usually the classes are not unique. So you might coming up with the multiple elements. So here for this particular button, we have a class here as well. And you see this is a class. So using the dot, and if I go here and provide this value dot this one. But here the problem here is that with there's 6 buttons, and all these 6 buttons have this class. So that's why they're 1 of 6. Again, you can go with this when it's unique in nature. As automation tester, our goal is to make it unique. So you can combine with class, you can combine with the ID, but eventually even you can go with any other selector with the element tag name. So start with the tag name followed by another selector.